Okay, welcome to the quarterfinals. So we have Borg Gulton playing a deck called Pita, which is a bug vintage list. Um, I can't see anything in here to figure out why it's called Pita. I'm sure Borg could explain it way better than I could.
I think it's kind of an inside joke spawned off of some of his playtesting sessions from what I remember hearing about it.
Okay.
On the other side, I actually made it to the top 8 playing this Young Americans list.
Now, before you even tell me about this list, I haven't seen it. Is it a red, white, blue deck that plays Young Pyromancer?
No, it's actually not.
Okay.
I don't know why the heck he called it Young Americans. The Young is definitely for the Pyromancer. The Americans, maybe it's because of the invitational card, and he's American. I don't actually know. With Bob Mayer, I think he's from America. So let's cover the match here first before we get too deep into the list. I opened up with Library, Borg opening up with Wasteland. He's got the answer. Lotus and Jet. What can he do with that? Now passing
Pass the
there,
turn.
didn't waste the Library. That sends a signal to me that he has Force of Will, and he's really overvaluing it. I think no matter what, me drawing the card here, I definitely waste there.
Yeah.
You know, what he's really doing is keeping around his. Oh, I can actually see his hand. Beautiful. So he's got Force and Snapcaster and Spell Pierce.
Yep.
By not wasting, you're just letting me get ahead. And you know, what is it going to be worth cracking that Lotus for blue? That's the real question. He's got Spell Pierce. Let's see what he does here. It looks like I'm going for a Confidant. And
Just all the card advantage.
yeah, so
There it
Confidant.
is. But now,
And he's going to waste. So he doesn't hard cast the Force, and he doesn't force pitching Snapcaster.
I could see if he wanted to waste your blue-black source as opposed to the library, and he's just passed back. Oh, he missed on land too. That's probably a consideration. Missing land drops is huge, and especially in the control mirror. So maybe he was thinking he was going to need that wasteland later on to maybe like Spell Pierce, Snapcaster, Spell Pierce, or something.
Yeah, this is interesting. So I'm brainstorming here. That's going to allow me to stack up and not take damage from the Confidant, or take as little as possible. Or I could shuffle away bad cards and just risk hitting that Blight Steel. We'll see where this goes. I mean, Brainstorm with Dark Confidant, I mean, those cards just play very well together.
Yeah. Either way, you're hitting land drops, and you're drawing extra cards.
So
Borg has a temporary mana base, so we'll see how it goes.
So I'm sacrificing my land, really looking to optimize my hand here. I'm not so much worried about the damage from Dark Confidant. There's nothing that's going to actually kill me. So I run out a Pyromancer, and that gets the Force of... Oh no, a Time Walk. And that gets a Force. Interesting.
Yeah.
So opting not to Spell Pierce and lose the Lotus. I think he's really looking to land a permanent, maybe a Jace, something big and substantial off of that, or multiple guys.
Now, does he have an Abrupt Decay in hand? Because that's an answer to the Confidant that you wouldn't be able to counter.
Yeah, it looks like that was what is going on there. Of course, I've already flipped a card off of it, so if I can get 2-for-1s all day, I will win the match. I'm not thrilled with the Young Americans list. I will not be playing it any further. It's a list that Rich had some success with. I'm pretty sure it's just because he's a phenomenal Magic player. The trade-offs versus Grixis I don't think are worthwhile. Basically, the idea behind the deck, for those who are not familiar, is it has 3 Deathrite Shamans, and that kind of allows you to play a 4-color deck in a way that the Grixis lists just are not capable of splashing into a 4th color. It's just not worth the stress on the mana base. There's too many different directions. Deathrite, on the other hand, allows you to do that, albeit setting you back significantly in terms of the power level. So you're playing 3 Deathrite Shaman instead of, say, Time Vault Key and Tinker.
Now, getting back to what you said about Rich Shea, I mean, I think and correct me if I'm wrong, but I've heard stories of him taking down vintage tournaments with Jace versus Chandra decks.
I mean, that is certainly something that has happened.
So yeah, you can't necessarily just pick up a Rich Shea list and expect to have the same results. I mean, I'm not taking credit away from you. You're one of the better players I know, but it's not easy to just to win a vintage tournament with Jace versus Chandra.
Yeah, I felt doing as well as I did with this, I really had to play well. I had to get lucky as well. One of the matches I won, I was able to fate seal them away from the mana that they needed. There was just a lot of decisions that had to be made, and any of them going in the wrong direction would have just been game over. So here we've got a 4-mana play from me.
Probably Jace getting
Jace.
forced.
So Borg, I think, really overvaluing keeping that Lotus in play.
Yeah.
If he had cracked for blue, he could have Snapcaster,
Spell Pierce.
I think that would have been safer. Maybe he was playing around Mental Misstep. I'm not sure. I am not sure there. That is a concern. With the active Jace. So, for example, here, I start Fate Sealing.
Keeping him off mana.
Grixis, I don't do that. Well, he has plenty of mana, though. Look, he's still a Lotus, so I'm really keeping him off of business. Yeah, this is very different than what I'd be doing with Grixis. Grixis, I would be brainstorming every turn and looking to assemble a combo that ends the game, or get so many counters that there's nothing they can do, and I'll just win off of the damage from like a Snapcaster and a Dark Confidant. Either way, you're moving toward a game state where you just are going to win. Here, I'm Fate Sealing and really just hoping to keep him off of any business.
Okay.
So very, very different game plans. And that's the type of adjustment you have to make with different types of lists. I mean, you just can't play this list like you're playing Grixis, because the power is just not there. For example, Ancestral Recall in this deck, not that amazing. Like, compared to Grixis, when you're drawing excess Dark Confidants, or when you're drawing excess Snapcasters, there's so many creatures. The extra bodies, at some point, there's just this massive diminishing returns. They're just not that good anymore. You don't need to be spending any extra mana on them. So that's really the difference. So he's going to scoop to that board state. 4 damage clock with the Jace, possibly due to time concerns. The game wasn't completely over, but it was really close.
Yeah. So, coming out of the board, I think he's probably going to bring in his Dismembers. I don't know. He doesn't have a lot of cards that are strictly good against you. Like, he could bring in Flusterstorm, but it doesn't counter Jace, it doesn't counter Bob. Leyline of the Void doesn't really do anything. He hasn't seen the Deathrite Shamans yet. Same thing with Yixla Jailer. Maybe Snuff Out.
Yeah, Snuff Out would be reasonable.
He's seen some creatures. And, I mean, in this kind of matchup, do you take out your 2-for-1s? Like, do you board out, like, 1 or 2 forces?
Well, I don't feel like there's anything in this list that you're really going to be happy forcing. Misstep is going to be really good because it stops Skull Clamp and Ancestral. Those are, 2 of the strongest cards in the list, although they're not as strong as they are in other builds. For example, Skull Clamp and Adrian Becker's Robot Affinity list, far superior than what this deck is able to do with it. And similarly, the more powerful decks use Ancestral much more effectively. Over here, in this list, from the list that Rich had won a Berkeley tournament in, the Cabal Therapy Gitaxian Probe combo is out. Too cute, doesn't really get there. That's something that when you have the Pyromancer, you can generate a bunch of tokens potentially, but overall just not worth it. There's only 2 Pyromancers in the deck, you don't draw them all the time. And when you don't, you're stuck doing things like Gitaxian Probing and just doing nothing. It also increased the Snapcaster count, increased the Lightning Bolt count, so it really did turn into kind of a bug-like tempo deck, except you have Lightning Bolt instead of Abrupt Decay main deck. Now, post-board, there's a full set of Abrupt Decays which come in. That's because the Oath matchup is so bad. I mean, you just can't beat Oath. It's just really, really gross. Your only plan is to beat down with creatures. You could try and Fate Seal them with Jace, but I mean, it's just not a likely play versus a deck like that.
Now, talking about how bad your Oath matchup is, I'm surprised to see distinct lack of Grafdigger's Cages in your sideboard.
So I've actually I did end up with some Grafdiggers over here. I didn't actually jot them down. Sorry, we're going off of Rich's list from Berkeley. So I did make some swaps entirely to beat Oath. So we ended up going up to 3 Grafdigger's Cages.
Okay.
Even still, not where you want to be. I've gone 1-1 versus Oath with this list, and the match that I won, my opponent did such spectacular things as Oathing down to Gristlebrand, being the 7th card left in his deck, so he wasn't able to draw any cards. Then I was able to like bounce it with Jace 3 turns in a row and beat him to death.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was really bizarre variance. Just highly, highly bad matchup. Everything in their deck is good against you. Everything in your deck is bad against them. It's just not where you want to be. You just have to keep the Oath off the board, and that's what the Abrupt Decays are for. And in the matchups that I lost, they were just able to duress the Abrupt Decay and then play an Oath. I mean, it was like I wasn't even there. They're just like, yeah, that's the only card in your whole deck that matters. Let's get it out of there,
Right.
and then play an Oath. And that's the problem with Abrupt Decay is it really doesn't. When you're playing against the Oath deck, they can just work around it first. They can just clear the way and make it happen, and that's what you see a lot of. So I've got another strong opener here in terms of Dark Confidant. This deck definitely needs Dark Confidant to really function well.
Borg not wasting. I mean, you're going to be drawing so many cards that it seems like a waste to waste right now. It's not it's not going to be a tempo play because he doesn't have any board presence, and I agree with him not wasting right there.
So we've got another Dark Confidant. And he's got a force there. So we see there the Vendilion Click. That's largely part of the reason why he wouldn't waste is to try and get that Vendilion Click out.
Yeah.
So that might not be an option for him now. He may have to fall back on a different line, unless he had multiple clicks.
I mean, but just on that play right there, you went up a card off your Dark Confidant, and he went down 2 cards by forcing the second one, so so you used a Dark Confidant and he used 2 cards to get rid of it, so he's down 1 card right now.
Yeah, this deck is just all about random attrition here and there and just trying to get there with the smattering of creatures. So both Dark Confidants are down.
Yep. He's still down 1. You probably have like 4, now 5 cards in your hand. He's got 2.
Yeah. So the other thing with the Confidants is you really need Confidant to make Pyromancer even a remotely reasonable card.
I don't see why he just wasted there.
Yeah, that's usually incorrect. To waste on your opponent's end step, you can usually do it during your turn, and you might have better use for the mana. And if you change your mind, just do it on your turn.
Right.
So that is probably incorrect.
Just probably wanted to. I don't know. Like sometimes I've been in a position where I've kind of felt like I'm starting to drown in my opponent's card advantage, and I just really want to do something. It's to feel like I'm part of the game.
Yeah, I don't know if there's too much of a reason to do it other than, as you said, maybe an emotional response. But I mean, in general, if you can do it during their end step or you can do it on your turn, you just want to keep your options around as long as possible. It really is a game of options. I don't try and think about the game strictly in terms of card advantage so much as options. For example, if you have 7 cards in hand, but you can't play any of them because of Chalice of the Void, you really don't have any cards in hand. Like the actual physical cards aren't the important thing so much as the variety of lines of play that you can have. Somewhere in those lines, there's probably a way of winning the game.
Yeah.
And the more you can funnel your opponent into a specific line that you can trump, the better off you're going to be.
So you think Borg's going to vamp for an Ancestral here?
Highly likely. Based off of his list, there's really not a lot that would be a better play than that. Jace the Mind Sculptor would be the only other thing that comes to mind.
Yeah, he could cast a Jace here. I like Ancestral, though. Drawing it for his turn.
Ancestral and Snapcaster decks is very, very interesting. The ability to flash it back is huge.
Yeah. So he's going for it. I mean, I would go for it there.
And I've got the misstep.
You got the mental misstep. That's tough. Does he have a response?
I'm not cracking any mana.
Yeah, I don't think he has a response. What's going on?
Is that a Steel Sabotage in hand?
Yeah.
It's either a Spellbomb or a Steel Sabotage. I can't quite tell. It's likely a card that's not going to matter. Yeah, this list doesn't run Tinker Blightsteel or Vault Key. It really is planning on winning with damage from attacking with small creatures. It does have a lot of upsides for people who are interested in the list. Abrupt Decay swings the other way here on Lotus.
No, he doesn't Steel Sabotage his own Lotus. He might not have Steel Sabotage in his hand.
The matchup versus Adrian's. Oh, it was a Steel Sabotage. Yep.
So
he's keeping me off of Force mana, but at this point, I don't think that's really the concern. And I've got a Time Walk with him stuck at 1 in hand. Can I play a creature as well?
He's got an Abrupt Decay in hand, I believe, which is not really going to do it.
So versus Adrian's list, huge favorite. I've played him 3 or 4 times now, and even games where he's been able to start drawing tons of cards, I don't think I've dropped a single game against him. Definitely haven't dropped a match. The time I played him in this tournament, which was in the next round, spoiler alert, we're not going to see it on camera, but at one point he drew 4 cards off of double clamping a Frogmite, then 4 cards off of a Arcbound Ravager that I was forced to Nature's Claim. Then I blocked a double skull clamped Lodestone Golem. That's 12 cards just there. And he clamped away at least 5 or 6 regular, Memnites and Genesis Chamber tokens. And he drew so many cards it was ridiculous, and it didn't matter. Like, you just, in between Young Pyromancer and Electrickery, there's just nothing favorable they can do. It's got 2 Ancient Grudges. Every card post board is just able to trade or do better. So yeah, it's really almost unwinnable for Adrian's list. I also played against Goblins in this tournament, and again, you
Electrickery.
You have Electrickery. You have 3 Deathrite Shamans, so you can block Lodestone or block Goblin Lackey and the Warren Instigator. You trade with the Instigator, but whatever.
Yeah.
It's just so good versus Goblins too. For pretty much any creature deck, this deck will stomp. But that's not really where you want to be. I feel like Grixis has a fine creature matchup, like a really good creature matchup. And we get Demonic Tutor. Let's see, probably Snapcaster for Ancestral.
Yeah.
Now, when I'm playing Grixis, what I like to do a lot is allow their Snapcaster to resolve and then counter the Ancestral, because the 2/1 body generally doesn't matter against me. What that does is that removes the value from the Snapcasters down the line. Early on in testing, I would find that some of the games I would lose versus a bug deck would be they Snapcaster, I counter. They Snapcaster, I counter. Third Snapcaster, oh no, I'm out of counters. That's a problem. Now they get their Ancestral, and the Ancestral ends up being the card that matters, not the bodies. So if you're able to eliminate the value, let them get the body, and then just counter the Ancestral, now every Snapcaster they draw
is a blank.
Yeah, it really doesn't matter. So that's something that I do a lot with the Grixis list. Not so much with the Young Americans list, though. Even though I do like the play and will make it when it applies, the body actually matters in this matchup. Like, it's gonna stop you from swinging with Confidant, or it's gonna hold you back. So sometimes you're just better off countering the body here, because you are trying to win during the combat step. Wildly different deck. Even though there's not that many different cards, it just makes a huge difference.
So Resolve Jace, he Fate Seals here, huh?
No.
Even though you have double fetch land and you have more cards than he does.
Yep. And he gets the Dark Confidant. So there was an Ancestral he put on the bottom. I actually had no idea what it was while we were playing. Alright, so I get a random one off the top.
I think Borg would be... maybe he thinks he has a chance of winning with Jace. I don't think he knows that you play quad lightning bolts.
Yeah, that was Snapcaster and Ancestral. Interesting to see on camera what he was Fate Sealing. I actually didn't check. But so far he's been bottoming everything.
Well, when every card's good.
Yeah, it's pretty difficult to beat this deck with Jace. And there's a lot of bodies.
Yeah. So he fetches here. What do you think he's going to play for 6?
Primeval Titan? No, I have no idea where he can go from Jace. It seems like it's just the best that he can do is try and Fate Seal me out. But it is difficult versus a deck so full of creatures. I mean, any creature is going to basically stop Jace from ever going ultimate. Did I not fetch there?
Yeah, I think you just... I don't know.
I just
Just drew the card.
Drew a
left
bad
on
card.
top.
Yeah, that's a huge error. All right.
Not gonna make that mistake again.
No. Yeah, that was.
Maybe you were testing him to see if he really left a bad card on top.
Yeah, maybe. Maybe that's what I was thinking. More than likely, just a technical error.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's pretty much never the right play to leave a good card on top and try and get your opponent to crack their fetch.
No.
But I have seen people do it. Yeah, that might actually be what I was thinking. It's possible. And also how they value the cards. Like sometimes people will leave something on top that's actually good. Like they just do it wrong.
Yeah. Library, activate.
That was. I actually recall my train of thought now. I was just focused on getting back to library. That was my only concern. So I wasn't even thinking about the fate sealing and whatnot. So here's a trinket mage. So right off the bat here, that's going to be a problem for Jace. He can no longer. Certainly bouncing trinket mage is not a good plan.
No.
And allowing it to attack Jace every turn is going to make it so he's never going to get to ultimate me. So he's going to have to actually find an answer if his plan is to win with just the Jace. So I've got a Sensei's top that almost puts me on par with
Misstep
with
the
Jace.
top.
Is this going to stick around?
Not worth fighting over.
No, can't fight over it. With the library, I'm going to try and just start outdrawing him.
Yep.
And we've got a death right. And
Another
another misstep.
Let's see if he lets library stick around. He does have a wasteland. So, if he was going to wasteland it, he's correct to do it on his turn in case he needs to do other things with the mana.
Yes, that would be definitely the time to do it before I get another card draw out of it. Let's see what he's keeping that wasteland around for. He's got a force.
Force not so important here. Put a land on top, keeping the force. Oh, just.
I want a Trigon. And I have
keeping double blue up for why? For force will. Keeping double blue up for force.
The only card left in his hand.
Drain.
Yeah, bluffing drain. So, lets me keep a card. I'll fetch away here. So that is an instance of a bluff gone awry. Trying to. When you're in this spot, I have no option but to make my best play. I'm gonna get ultimated. So you can't bluff when your opponent has no options. And I do see that on occasion. People will try and get a little too fancy. The bottom line is, no matter what, I have to make my play, and I have to stop Jace from ultimating me.
Right.
So
you might as well have just wasted the library.
Absolutely, would have been correct to waste the library.
Because now you get to see an extra card, which will. I mean, you already have a full grip, so you're gonna look at. You have 9 options this turn.
Yeah, drain. It would not stop me from doing whatever I was gonna do anyway.
8 options.
If you drain me, you drain me.
Mm-hmm.
It might slightly change the order that I play my spells in.
Yep.
So I've got a.
Starting it off with the Young American.
So Pyromancer, which I'm probably going to play before any other card anyways.
Right.
Just to get the extra token value. And we've got the Abrupt Decay. So Drain wouldn't have mattered there.
Nope.
So it looks like I'm clear to smash in at Jace, take him down a notch. So he's at 11. And what do we have here? Yeah, that Wasteland not being tapped, being untapped would have been a
They're confident.
huge difference.
Leaving the ruby up instead of a blue-red. No fear.
Well, I think it was because of the Wasteland. I think I was thinking I want to make sure that I can have the red up no matter what.
No, you're right.
Probably would have been better to leave the blue-red up, just because if he Wastelands that instead of the library, that would be amazing.
No, that's your untap with library again.
Yeah, that's a mistake. Yeah, those extra cards are going to bury him here.
Yeah.
You can't. You just can't. That Death Right is just going to be a speed bump. Now I've got my own Jace. 4 life. Totally fine with that.
Yep. He opted to start brainstorming with Jace, which I mean, at that point, I think that's the right play. You know, you need to, because he's clearly Fate Sealing is not going to get him anywhere.
Yeah, Fate Sealing is worst mode in terms of if it didn't lead to the ultimate, you probably would never do it. Like you're always going to brainstorm instead of Fate Seal. If you have a deck with a bunch of counters, very rarely is keeping them off the cards.
I mean, if they're hellbent, it's and you have one counter spell, I guess it's fine.
Yeah, I'd probably still brainstorm.
Yeah.
Really. Like if it's not going to lead to the ultimate.
Yeah, that's true.
They can hit runner. You know, I'd rather just keep digging to, assuming I'm playing a good deck that I can actually like win a game of Magic with.
He's hard casting the Force.
Yeah, that's gonna be fine.
So that's why we kept that Wasteland around.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, just being worried about like a really powerful play on my side.
When it just doesn't matter, like anything you do is just gonna eventually overwhelm. Because you have the Pyromancer and you're drawing extra cards with Dark Confidant every turn.
Yeah, Pyromancer is much better when you have Dark Confidant. You actually get to make tokens.
Now you can just drop a Jace.
Games without, and Jace too with the Pyromancer. Cards where you don't have a bunch of extra cards coming in, I mean, you just don't do anything with Pyromancer. There were plenty of games where I played it as a 2-1 and didn't get anything out of it. Like just either got killed first or I just killed them without playing any more spells.
Mm-hmm.
But if you're drawing extra cards off of Bob or Jace every turn, really good chance that you're going to be able to do something.
Setting yourself up for minimal damage.
Yeah, the biggest thing in the deck post-board I think was Jace. I'm pretty sure I boarded out forces in this matchup. There's really nothing in a bug list that I'm going to want to force except for Abrupt Decay, which I can't force.
Yeah.
You know, that's really the only type of card that you'd like want to keep around one of your guys.
So now you're going to crack in for 2, 4, 6, 7. I don't even think you attack Jace here. Because it's not like he can untap and like deck you.
Absolutely. Yeah, you just go for the throw here. Attacking Jace doesn't make any sense. It's not going to get Jace off the board, and it's not going to change any of his options.
Right.
The only card to think about is Time Walk. If he drew Time Walk and I couldn't counter it, then he could Time Walk Jace Ultimate, but he's still dead on board.
You have 6 or 7 cards in your hand versus his, I think, 0.
Well, even if he does it, I'm still going to beat him to death before I run out of cards in my deck.
Right.
A Jace Ultimate will not save him here.
Opting not to make any blocks. Oh. You're killing that before blocks. Not forgetting your elementals, which is huge. I've seen people forget those, and it's like, you know, you might as well not even be playing the card if you're going to forget your elemental triggers.
Yeah, 3 lands off the Jace leaves him with no good options here.
Yep.
Except to pack it in.
Yeah, tough match for Borg. Interesting. He's talking. I think that was an indication that he realizes he should have wasted the library, which, you know, that's important to be self-correcting as a player. You know, seeing your errors after the fact and knowing that you could have done something different. You know, that's the only way you're going to get better.
Yeah, I've never seen a player get better after blaming luck. That doesn't really.
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do about variance like that. You really just have to make the best plays that you can. Borg recognized that, and he'll be a better player for it next time.
Yep. All right. Well, that was exciting quarterfinals going on to the semifinals.